Hey everybody, it's Tammy Salamone, the Pink Survivor. So today I thought it would be a great kind of learning experience to talk about how did you find out you had cancer? And I wanted to thank all of those who had answered my question on Instagram. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. So yeah, I put this question out on Instagram asking anybody how they found out you had cancer, and it was very different for everybody. There's really no solid way that people find out suddenly they have cancer. They don't obviously have pain sometimes, or they find a big tumor. It's different for everybody. So I thought we'd kind of share that today. Cancer is just so random, and sometimes the signs and symptoms are just not so obvious. So first I heard from Casey, who is an amazing health coach, and I'm going to go ahead and put down her Instagram profile so that you can find her on Instagram if you want to connect with her. She is so helpful. She loves helping others. And here is her story. I had her send in a little video. Let's listen to her now.
My name is Casey Kang, and I am a 3-time survivor of acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And the signs and symptoms that I was feeling prior to diagnosis were a lot of things. So a few months prior to diagnosis, although it's an acute disease, which means it happens very quickly and it's very aggressive, this is what I was experiencing. I was experiencing extreme lower back pain. I would go to the chiropractor. It would help for a couple of days, but then it would come back. I started to have visual ocular distortions where it's almost like you look at the sun and then you look away and you get that blinding light in your face and it won't go away. I was experiencing some migraines and some headaches, which I had headaches and migraines in the past, so I just dismissed it. And all this was going on around the holidays, so I just attributed it to stress. And then I felt a lump on my neck, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get strep. I booked an appointment with an ENT. He felt it. He was like, okay, let's give you a round of antibiotics. I had 10 days of antibiotics. Or no, yes, 10 days of antibiotics, and I had an appointment on a Friday, and the last day of antibiotics was on a Monday. That's when everything started to get really bad. I would blow my nose into a tissue and big giant clots of blood would be there. Still didn't think it was anything. I had bruising everywhere. I would like touch my arm to a table and I'd have a giant massive bruise. I was extremely fatigued. I looked pale as a ghost. I was really, really struggling to catch my breath, even though I still worked out the day of diagnoses. I was having severe night sweats, soaking through shirts, and I was also, the day that I was diagnosed, I finally noticed these clusters of red dots on my skin, which are petechiae. So those were the things that I was experiencing, all leading up to diagnoses.
I also heard from Sylvia. She's a triple negative breast cancer survivor, and she found her cancer by accident one day when just taking off her bra, she felt a lump on the side of her breast. Sylvia is also so inspiring. She is just amazing. She works out so hard. She's always pushing herself to be the very best. And here's her Instagram link if you would like to connect with her. Next, I heard from Christy. She's just the biggest sweetheart. She's so supportive. I think you guys would just love her. And don't forget to connect with her on Instagram as well, right here. And Christy said, let's see, she said she discovered she was high risk of developing breast cancer. Because of this, she continued to have regular mammograms, and 4 years after her first mammogram, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So we can already see from these 3 situations, each one is so unique and so different. The next video clip comes from someone very special to me, my brother Richard. He's doing really well today, but does definitely still deal with some side effects that he lives with every day. Let's hear from him now.
Hi, my name is Richard Tamouche, and I'm a cancer survivor. I was asked by my sister Tammy to kind of describe how I found out I had cancer. Well, making a long story short, I was a gym rat for many years. I started noticing before my diagnosis that my workouts weren't the same, and I wasn't getting the same results from the same exercises and was really struggling to keep pace. So I constantly pushed myself until eventually I noticed there was blood coming from my urine. So I went to the doctors and everything, and the first time I went to my urologist, he had told me that it might have been from getting older and exercising maybe a little too much. But I refused to believe that because it was periodically when I was bleeding through the urine. This took over a year of going back and forth, believe it or not, because I really thought there was something wrong. My workouts were just diminishing at a rapid pace. The results weren't there. And after a year of going back and forth, I would go say I was bleeding. By the time I get to the doctor, there would be no blood in the urine. So this, again, after a full year, I did go back to the doctor, and thank God I had nothing but blood in my urine. And at that point, they started analyzing, doing tests, and they found out I had a very rare and aggressive cancer called neuroendocrine differentiation. This cancer metastasized into tumors on my lower body that affected my bladder, my prostate, my muscle tissue, and everything around it. I eventually had to have all those organs removed, and a new bladder was made out of a piece of my small intestine. Then chemo started, of course, and that was very, very rough. It went on for, I think, 4 or 5 rounds. And it was the maximum chemo that you can give a human being because this cancer was so aggressive. So I would only say be your own advocate and never give up. When you think there's something wrong with you, always, always go to your doctor. Keep going to your doctor until you get the answers you need.
Lastly, I heard from Ed, who also dealt with a very unusual type of cancer, and he's going to share his story. He wrote to me and said that he's still dealing with lingering side effects as well. He's really amazing. He's always very supportive of any of my posts, and I really appreciate him. So he said, about 6 years ago, I had an earache on my left side. I actually felt something travel down my throat, giving me a sore throat, and later my voice turned raspy. Swallowing got difficult. He finally went to the doctors, had an x-rays, a biopsy, and they found a growth on his larynx. They called it Synovia carcova. 6 months later, he was in a 12-hour surgery to remove his voice box. It took him over a year to learn how to talk again. 6 years later, he says, I'm here, I have my struggles. Winter is hard for me, lots of speaking problems, but at least I'm alive. He has his good and his sad days as well. And I also wanted to tell you about me. When I was diagnosed, I had no signs or symptoms. I was feeling great. It was just a routine mammogram that I went to that discovered the first tumor. And then that's why it was so crazy. I was feeling so well that I couldn't believe everything that I ended up going through and everything that I was ended up dealing with. So I hope that's helpful, because I hope you realize that sometimes there's no symptoms at all. Sometimes they find a lump. Sometimes you have some kind of side effect that you know is a little unusual, but maybe the doctors are kind of putting off sometimes. But the main thing is to definitely persist. Go to the doctor. If you feel like there's something wrong, don't just let it go. And if it ends up being nothing, at least you have that peace of mind. But oftentimes it will turn into something, and it can be something very serious. If it is cancer, better to catch it early than late. All right, thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you guys next time.